So Devin Leary has found a new football home. The former NC State quarterback is going to transfer to Kentucky. That is not the school that most people assumed he was going to go to when we found out he was entering the portal. A lot of speculation had him going to Notre Dame, but it's actually Kentucky where he will be the quarterback next year. He posted on Instagram. Initially, there was a report from the various 24/7s, On Threes, things like that, Candace. But it was an Instagram story where he showed a picture of Drake lacing up for the Kentucky Wildcats basketball team.
Now, why would you curse yourself already?
Well, I feel like this is canceling things out. You got the Drake curse and the Wolfpack NC State stuff. If you mash them together, maybe you come out the other side positively.
That's true. That's a good point.
For those who aren't aware, Drake, noted rap enthusiast, is one of the greatest coolers of all time. If Drake, a front runner, attaches himself to your school, guess what happens?
It's not going well for you.
It's a wrap.
And not even just school. We're talking about fights. We're talking about soccer. Whenever he attaches himself to a team, it usually goes left.
So the Leary thing, it's interesting because we're in the triangle and you've got all the competing conversations that take place with NC State and North Carolina and everything else. Leary's situation is the transfer portal done good, okay? Leary did not have things go the way that everybody anticipated this past season with the Wolfpack. He had another frustrating season-ending injury at quarterback. That gives you the emergence of MJ Morris a little sooner than anticipated, but circumstances. And Leary, who I'm guessing had things gone differently, was off to the NFL after this year. But the injury holds him back. NC State's ready to move on from Devin Leary. That was the plan. It's like, thank you for your service. There's been some great wins. We get the frustrations. There's nothing but appreciation. We're not shooing you out. We're just kind of like, hey, man, here's the situation. And you might better your situation somewhere else. Yeah. So there's no animosity. Right. It's a very mutual thing. And since he can't go to the NFL, or I guess he could go to the NFL, but he would have a hard time with the injury being able to show off what he's capable of, and maybe he has to get an undrafted free agent deal or a late-round pick, and he's not making that much money. Well, NIL affords you, Candace, to go somewhere else and make some cash. Now, I'm not going to get into the speculation of just how much he's making, but it seems like a substantial amount of money to play college football for one season at Kentucky. Yeah. And if he stays healthy and Kentucky and the SEC has another decent season, like we saw with Will Levis, who is one of the top picks in the draft this year. I know Panther fans have been obsessing over this guy. Hey, you could. I know. Trust me. Everybody, it's quarterback thirsty in Charlotte right now. Quarterback thirsty.
That's fair.
I think this is name, image, and likeness in the transfer portal working itself out the way it should.
Yeah, absolutely.
But not if you listen to Mac Brown. North Carolina's head coach has a different way of looking at these things because he has a prized quarterback on his roster right now.
Yes.
And during yesterday's press availability, Candace, he talked about tampering, that he knows that schools were going to be offering him millions of dollars. He's not going to tell us who it was, but we can figure it out. All you have to do is look at who's getting the top teams, right, or the top recruits. Mac, I'm not trying to single out Mac here, Candace, because he's not the only coach that does this. But I do feel like we're at the point now where we're going to need some names. Yeah. If this is as bad as you say it is, we're going to have to break the coach's bro code and go ahead and name who it is who is going behind the scenes through back channels, throwing your quarterback some money.
Are you assuming it's coaches, or is it, these boosters giving the money in by way of coach?
Well, what is tampering at this point? That's another unknown.
Okay.
It's all the Wild West. Let's say it's an NIL collective through back channels, goes through, I don't know, let's say they go through Drake May's dad or through his representation, saying, hey, by the way, if you left North Carolina and you came to, Alabama, here's what we could get. Is that tampering?
I don't think so, but I also feel like when you talk about the right audience, Drake is not exactly the audience where I'm trying to backdoor anything. But he doesn't need the money.
No.
He's very much Carolina born, bred, dead, all the things. So, he's not the one. But there's other players that I could definitely see. I mean, if you look at Carolina's roster on the defensive side, I know there had to be conversations going on from a collective. Like, if you come here, not only will you get some money, but you'll actually develop.
That is a knock that's being used against North Carolina, especially on the defensive side of things. Tony Grimes probably being the most vocal of them all.
The first thing smoking.
Right.
Show should storm. The first thing smoking.
But again, I'm not trying to single out Carolina here because we saw what happened with Pitt and Jordan Addison and how everything kind of played out at Southern Cal and how they basically built like a Pac-12 all-star team through name, image, and likeness. We know what the situation is. The players aren't dumb. We know they have representation too. So I'm just going to need a definition of what exactly tampering is.
But who is even in charge of regulating the tampering? Because we really don't want NCAA involved. We're trying to get them away from policing us. So who is going to be the one monitoring the tampering?
Great question. You want the NCAA to do it? Because they're so great at those types of things, right?
And UNC, of all people, would not want the NCAA.
Probably not.
Involved.
And if there is something that happens that gets you in trouble, how many years is it going to take for you to actually find out what the punishment is?
Exactly.
I mean, I think we're 5-6 years removed from all the stuff that happened with Adidas.
Yeah.
And we just got around to Sean Miller. We just, like last week, just got around to Sean Miller?
Yeah.
Through the IR process? Nah, like that's not the way to go about it. There is a way to go about it that would eliminate these types of things.
Just let it at free-for-all?
I mean, it already is a free-for-all.
This is true.
But if you want to keep your players at your school, I mean, you could pay them. You could sign them to contracts.
Yeah. Are we under the assumption, though, that I feel like UNC is a school that's like definitely giving money, right, though? They're collective or whatever they got going on.
They're all giving money right now.
Yeah, but not high enough. I don't know.
Well, I guess that's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
You know, because like Nick Saban did this last summer and I got everybody worked up.
Right.
You know, he called out Jimbo Fisher, but I don't think he was calling out Jimbo Fisher explicitly. I think what he was doing was he was using Jimbo Fisher and the top recruiting class as a message to his boosters.
Right.
Guys, I don't want to hear you complaining to me about where we are in the recruiting rankings when you're not giving me the money.
And if anything, it was kind of reflective of the season, the fact that Alabama wasn't in the conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe even more so the boosters are in full throttle of giving money.
Meanwhile, you got Ryan Day at Ohio State.
Yeah.
You got their AD putting it out there. They almost seem desperate. Like we cannot compete. And maybe this is a rewiring of fandom, and maybe this is true at Carolina as well, where the attitude has always been, well, why wouldn't you want to come to our school?
Right.
Why should we have to do X, Y, Z to get you to come to the school?
Very much a Carolina mentality. But, I mean, allegedly there's like a whole recession coming, so will that shake up the NIL in any capacity?
I'll believe the recession is here when it actually happens.
Okay.
I'm of the belief that we keep talking about this recession as a way to get out of doing certain things. It's just, you know.
Yeah, the moon's in retrograde, all the things.
Look, I'm a parent. Like, I know how to, like, just say, I don't know, guys. It could be. Forecast is calling for rain. I don't think we can go to the pool this weekend.
Yeah.
I just don't want to go to the pool. Okay? So
people aren't budgeting appropriately.
But you can't, but the kids aren't going to understand the, like, because I said so. Right. So they're like, well, you know.
Dancing around it,
There's a 60% chance of rain. Not going to do it.